Hi, Grandma here reading The Golden Goblet, and I'm reading the second half of chapter 12. If I had taken the goblet when I had the chance, he thought, if I were sure it was in the squirrel room now, I wish I knew what to do and how to do it. Then suddenly, on the day before the festival, that's the festival of celebrating the Nile River, again flooding, his wish came devastatingly true. At midday, he went to the thicket to make final plans with his friends for the holiday. Heqet arrived late, full of news and bursting to tell all. "Sit down quickly, Ranofer. Here, have this cheese. You'll never guess what has happened." "What?" Ranofer asked warily. He had learned not to expect too much from Heqet's enthusiasm. "Well, I've been spying again, only by chance this time, to be truthful. I was hoping to meet you just now, just a few moments ago, and I saw Wenamon ahead of me, so I thought I'd follow him, just for a while. He turned into the Street of the Potters, at that corner where Abba's shop stands. Well, there's a big shed next to it, only a roof really, with poles to support it, where Abba dries his pots and jars." I know, go on." Something about the story was making Ranofer exceedingly uneasy. Surely Gebu would not hide treasure in pots and jars. But, Gebu was waiting there. He was pretending to look at the pots, strolling about idly, but really he was waiting. Wenamon made as if he would pass right by, then pretended to see Gebu, quite by accident, and stopped to greet him. Anyone watching, except me, of course, Heqet's eyes narrowed craftily, would have thought they'd strolled into the shed merely to find shade while they exchanged a few civilities. It was cleverly done, but I was cleverer. "What did they say? Could you hear them? Tell me quickly." Heqet would not be hurried. "I'm coming to that. I slipped into the shed too, and crept among the benches and tables where the pots are put to dry, and found a place quite close to them where I could hide behind a stack of new-made water pots. It took me some time, of course, but I dared not make any noise. So I did not hear the first of what they said." "What did you hear? Please hurry." "I heard Gebu's voice first. He spoke very low, but it made a chill go up my spine, the way he spoke. He said, 'A curse on the festival. Fancy anyone cursing the high Nile feast.'" "Go on," Ranofer begged. "I am. 'A curse on the festival,' he said. 'The Nile can flood without us. Meet me at daybreak beside the broken tree. It is safe enough now.'" Everything in Ranofer seemed to stop. Heart, breath, thoughts. It was like the stone-cutting shop at midday when the clatter suddenly died to silence at once. Heqet must have been satisfied with the effect he had created, for his eyes glistened. Then Wenamon said, "It would be safer a year hence." And Gebu growled at him low like a vicious dog. "Or never. I've never waited long enough." He said, "I made the plan. Now I want my reward. Before I'm too old to enjoy it. Do as I bid you." I must get a hold of myself, Ranofer thought. I must think of something very fast that will make Heqet forget all this. But what? "And then," he said, in a calmest tone as he could manage. "Well, then," Wenamon said, "and what of afterwards?" At first I did not know what he meant, but soon I did, for Gebu smiled in a very unpleasant way and said, "I have attended to that only an hour ago. Setma is not the only captain on the river, as I told him at the time." So Gebu found a new smuggler, and the goblet would soon be gone, if it were not already. "Go on," said Ranofer, swallowing. "Well, that is all." Gebu turned without another word and went off down the street, putting his feet down like chunks of stone. In a moment, Wenamon left too. Ranofer was silent, concentrating on keeping his expression casual while his mind spun furiously. "Well," Heqet said, "what do you think of it?" I do not know what broken tree they mean, but if they are meeting tomorrow, should we not spy on them again and miss the feasting? We can feast later when we have found out where they go. Surely you would not miss this chance." "I do not think it is a chance," Ranofer said. Suddenly, out of sheer necessity, inspiration came. "Gebu is going to Abydos today. We cannot follow him there." Heqet's face fell ludicrously. "To Abydos? I heard him tell Pi so." "Then why would he? Well, I suppose the broken tree is there. No doubt Wenamon is going too." "Aye, very likely." Ranofer nibbled on his cheese, attempting to seem thoughtful and even disappointed, looking anywhere but at Heqet. Heqet was silent for a few minutes. "It does seem strange," he said, at last in a puzzled voice, "that they would make their plans here, where they are known and might be overheard. Why not on the boat going down the river? Perhaps they were going on different boats." "Where do I find these explanations so fast?" Ranofer thought, disgusted with himself. "I'm becoming as good a liar as that Babylonian." "That is it, of course." Heqet sounded disgusted with himself too, for not seeing something so apparent. Naturally, they would not travel together. It might seem suspicious. Doubtless they will pretend not to know each other at all when they get to Abydos. I wish we had a friend who sails a Nile boat. I would give my new shanty to see what they do tomorrow. There's no doubt some goldsmith will be the poorer for it. I'm afraid you are right." Ranofer gave a sigh that Heqet need not know was one of relief instead of disappointment. Heqet sighed too and got to his feet. "It's clear we can do nothing about it this time. I'm sorry. It was such a good bit of spying. I will meet you tomorrow, as we planned. At least we have the festival to console us." With a grin, he led the way out through the curtain of reeds, and Ranofer followed. He had not tasted a bite of the good cheese he had eaten, and the festival had dwindled to nothing in his mind. He knew quite well that only one thing could lure Gebu from the prospect of free barley beer: the gold of the tombs. If he and that vulture who was his friend did not mean to join the merrymaking tomorrow, they were almost certainly going to the Valley of the Tombs of the Kings in broad daylight this time, while all Thebes was occupied with feasting. Profoundly disturbed, Ranofer scarcely knew what he did all afternoon at the shop. When work ended for the day, he wandered through the scorching streets, blind and deaf to the spirit of the holiday already sweeping the crowds around him. He had no desire to go home, but no reason for going anywhere else. He found himself at last pushing through the rustling, stiff reeds of the papyrus marsh, with the water lapping almost to his knees. The deep mud of the shallows was cool and soothing to his bare feet, but he could take no pleasure in it. Over and over in his mind appeared the image of the familiar mummy-shaped outline of the western hills and the sheer red cliffs that had the Valley of the Tombs of the Kings. How could he feast tomorrow, knowing with every bit of honey cake what was happening yonder? He would choke on the food. "Hi, look at my lotus, we have a visitor!" cried a familiar voice almost at his elbow. He spun around to see the ancient and his donkey splashing through the tall reeds. The old man stopped and looked at him curiously. "What ails you, young one? Did you think I was a Keft?" "Nay," Ranofer muttered, but his heart still pounded from the nervous start he had given. To cover it, as he waited a little further, pushed aside the last fringe of papyrus, pretending to study the bright-colored sails that dotted the river. The ancient followed, talking cheerfully. "It's a fine sight, isn't it, to see the river full to its brim again? Makes a man work with a will. I've a good load today by the grace of Osiris. I'll wager the sailmakers will greet me with shouts of joy and load me with coppers. Oh, I certainly may set their stingy hides. They'll give me a little as I take. The ancient chuckled and loosed his donkey to drink. But why worry? Tomorrow everyone will have cakes and beer. Aye, he mused. Great Osiris is ready to lose his flood over the land once more. Seen any hangings lately? For a moment, the noisy sucking of the donkey was the only answer to the familiar joke. Then Ranofer said, nay. The word came out so choked that the old man turned to peer at him. What ails you, young one? He asked again. Nothing. Ranofer's bare toes dug convulsively into the mud. I was only thinking of those wicked ones we saw hanging there that day. Ancient, how was their crime found out? He could feel the old man still watching him, though he kept his eyes on the sails. Why, the ancient answered slowly, they were followed. Followed to the valley? Startled out of his nervousness, Ranofer turned to stare at him. Aye, to the valley, to the tomb itself, and into the tomb. Into the tomb? But who would dare? One who loved his Pharaoh and the gods of Egypt, he dared, the ancient said simply. His one eye was shrewd and very thoughtful. Why do you ask me, young one? What do you think? What do you know of tomb thieves, save what I tell you? Oh, nothing at all, Ranofer said quickly. I'm merely curious. Aye, curious. I know the ways of boys. They are like cats who thrust their noses into everything and oftentimes are sorry. You had best save your curiosity, young one, for safer subjects. Ranofer swallowed and did not answer. The ancient was still studying him as if trying to see straight through his eyes into his heart. And Ranofer was beginning to feel alarmingly transparent. Well, I must take my leave, he stammered, edging away. We all meet tomorrow at daybreak, the three of us. Aye, of course. And you are, nothing ails you? Nay? Ranofer turned, left abruptly, forgetting to mumble as much as a live forever in his haste to get away. Only after he was well beyond the thicket and emerging into the dusty lane did he call down Ammon's protection on the old man and on himself, who needed it far more. For when Gebu set out tomorrow for the valley of the tombs of the kings, he knew he must follow. That doesn't sound like it's a good idea, does it? But I guess he doesn't have any policemen he can go to. And would they believe a boy? Probably not. Well, we'll have to find out in the next chapter. Bye-bye.